Welcome to our discussion, folks. We're diving into a topic that's really charged, talking about global tensions and the notion of an empire in decline, particularly with the US grappling with endless wars. It's
Yep,
like the
indeed.
US is caught in this cycle of proxy wars and aggressive foreign policies, right?
Absolutely. It's all about this shift of power. We're seeing the US, for instance, continuing proxy conflicts against Russia, while also supporting problematic policies in Palestine and even having plans for Iran, China, and other regions. It's intense stuff.
Yeah, oh man, it's like watching a house built on shaky foundations. On one side, you have these attempts to maintain dominance, sort of through regime change in places like Venezuela and even trying to re-engage in Afghanistan, while on the other side, emerging alliances like SCO and BRICS are drawing up new maps of global power.
Right? That new alignment is really stirring things up. Exactly. And it's interesting how the video argues that the US is desperate. I mean, with every proxy war and every shift in policy, there's a kind of urgency that suggests
Yeah,
Washington is really
definitely.
struggling, isn't it? It almost feels like a last ditch effort to cling to some form of global control.
And that's where you see the contrast. On one side, you have China and Russia showcasing strong economic and military might, while the US's own actions, like those endless wars, seem to underline a decaying empire.
Yeah, it's almost like the US can't see beyond its old strategies. Right? And it's particularly pointed when they mention the support for genocide in Palestine. The narrative is loaded there. The video contends that by supporting problematic approaches in Palestine while pushing for a two-state solution they label as unrealistic, the US is perhaps inadvertently reinforcing its own decline.
That's a bold claim, but there's definitely substance behind it. Exactly, and think about it. Supporting what some might call endless war not only drains resources but also alienates many global players. This forces countries to look for alternatives, like joining alliances that oppose what the US represents. It kind of creates a domino
Yep, I
effect
see
in
that.
global geopolitics.
Now, here's something that really makes you think. The video portrays US actions as almost self sabotaging. I mean, by pushing for regime change and supporting wars that never seem to end, isn't the US, in a way,
Yeah,
undermining
it's
its
like
own
tossing
position?
water on a fire that's
But do
already
you really
burning
think
out.
that's a fair analysis of Washington's strategy?
I get your point. It might seem a tad dramatic to call it self sabotage, but um, look at the evidence. The pattern of intervention, these proxy wars with Russia, the controversial stances in the Middle East, and even the planned moves against China and Iran all illustrate a strategy that's more about maintaining a hold on power than actually achieving stability. It's
I
the
can see
classic
that.
case of fighting the last battle instead of the current war.
Yeah, totally. And there's also this element of unpredictability. The video mentions the US supporting what it calls endless war, as if it's stuck in a loop, hell bent on controlling global outcomes regardless of the cost, rather than
Right, it's
adapting to a multipolar
like they're
world.
chasing shadows of influence from a bygone era. Exactly. And this ties into the whole idea of an empire in decline. When you consider history, it's reminiscent of other great powers that couldn't pivot fast enough to the changing times. You know?
Yeah, like the fall of the Roman Empire in a modern setting. And then there's the economic angle. The video not only highlights military and political missteps, but also suggests that the economic might of rivals like China is drawing countries away from US influence. Do you think that reflects a realignment in economic power?
Oh, for
It's
sure.
like when you have this massive shift in dollars versus UN power on the global stage.
Yeah, it's like watching a seismic shift. Traditional US economic might is losing its sheen as countries begin to see more benefits in alternatives BRICS, SCO, and other alliances that promise more multipolar stability. This definitely isn't a quiet transition, it's a loud clash of
Absolutely.
old versus new systems.
I must say, though, one could argue that the US still wields significant soft power. Do we maybe give enough credit to that angle? I mean, beyond the military might and the wars, there's still a cultural and economic influence that many find appealing. But the video
That's a
makes a
fair
case that
challenge.
this soft power is gradually eroding in the face of these aggressive policies.
Exactly. And soft power is increasingly under pressure when the narrative around wars and endless conflicts overshadows it. The appeal of alliances like BRICS isn't just in military might, but also in offering a different model of governance and economic development. A
Right,
serious
that's
alternative
something.
view that many countries are exploring now.
And speaking of alternatives, the idea of a two-state solution in Palestine is thrown around as a kind of political compromise. However, the video criticizes it as unrealistic and contrary to US interests.
Well, it's like
How do you see
you're
that?
trying to fix a
But
windshield
the
with super
underlying
glue.
cracks remain. The US position, as laid out in the video, is less about fairness and more about maintaining strategic advantages.
Exactly. It's a bit of a double edged sword. While the rhetoric might seem progressive externally, embracing a Palestinian state, it's juxtaposed with actions that support regimes and policies fueling endless
Yeah,
conflict.
it's like sending mixed
Makes for
signals
a
on the
messy,
world stage.
convoluted strategy indeed.
And then there's the issue of alliances. The video points out that many countries are leaning towards SCO and BRICS as a reaction against what they see as American aggressiveness and its outdated approach to international relations. Right? And it's no wonder, is it? When you feel cornered by constant military adventures, you look for, well, more cooperative partners with shared interests. Exactly. One thing that struck me was the tone in the video that suggests the US is almost blinded by its own pursuit of control. Do you think that's a little too harsh?
I think it might be
But when you
hyperbolic
consider
in
the
places.
extent of its interventions, from regime change plots to proxy wars, it certainly paints a picture of desperation.
And it makes you wonder, what is the end game? Is it really about maintaining a legacy, or is it just a fear of losing influence in a world that's rapidly changing?
Exactly.
And
It's
that
like a
fear
fear of
drives
obsolescence.
extreme measures.
And this whole discussion about empire in decline, it's fascinating historically. If you think about the rise and fall cycles of large powers, it often starts with overextension and internal contradictions. Isn't it?
That's the
The more
classic
you
pattern.
stretch, the more vulnerable you become.
Exactly. It's like trying to juggle too many balls. Eventually, one's got to drop. And in the current scenario, those dropped balls are not just mistakes, but costly interventions that alienate potential allies.
Yep, it's a
Sometimes
high-stakes game.
the costs far outweigh the benefits.
But here's a thought. Could these aggressive tactics actually serve a purpose for the US in the long run? I mean, is there a scenario where this approach resets the balance in a way favorable to them? The risk
Well,
is
I
that in a
respect that view,
multipolar
but I'm a
world,
bit skeptical.
isolation and overreach just magnify each other.
Exactly, and it's kind of a catch-22. The more they push away potential allies. And as economic and military powers like China and Russia consolidate, the US might end up facing a block of nations that have little patience for old-school hegemony.
A modern
Though the
David
stakes
versus
here are
Goliath
global,
scenario.
not biblical.
And while there's undeniable charm in the idea of a declining empire acknowledging its limitations, critics might say that the US still has avenues it could pursue to reinvent itself.
True, but reinvention
And right
demands
now,
acknowledging
the
past
narrative
mistakes.
seems fixed on relentless control.
Exactly. The reluctance to pivot could be its downfall. And that's why, as we look at these developments, it does feel like the US is trapped by
Yeah,
its
it's
own
like
ambitions.
a self-fulfilling prophecy.
If you keep pushing with one hand tied behind your back, failure is almost inevitable.
Right, and meanwhile, the page is turning for other global players. Countries are beginning to question the old order and look towards more cooperative and balanced alliances.
Exactly.
Think of it as an evolutionary process in international relations, survival of the fittest, where old strategies are being quickly outmoded.
And think about the economic ramifications too. With rivals demonstrating robust economic policies and military advancements, traditional US economic soft power is under
Yeah, the
tremendous
shifting
strain.
tide of global finance
It's not
is
just
a crucial
about
piece of
dollars
the
anymore,
puzzle.
but a redefined global currency of power.
True. And so here we are, looking at a scenario where traditional American power might be supplanted by a more diversified, multipolar world order. If it
that shift-
solidifies, could mean the end of a certain era of US dominance.
Exactly. And that's what makes this discussion so critical. It's not just geopolitical posturing, it's about realigning global relationships and ultimately affecting billions of lives. Because these
Absolutely.
strategic decisions aren't made in a vacuum.
Now, I have to ask, do you think there's any realistic path for the US to recalibrate its policies without causing further instability?
That's tricky.
It might require a fundamental change in how it views international engagement, not just more military intervention, but a real commitment to diplomatic recalibration?
Exactly. It's almost like a necessary wake up call. Perhaps the US needs to pivot towards dialogue and cooperation rather than relying solely on force and proxy engagements.
Right, though
Not an
that
easy
would mean
task given
a
current
major
political
ideological
dynamics.
shift. And that's where many experts see potential for internal conflict or even reform. If there's any chance for avoiding a downslide, it might stem from within, leaders willing to impose a strategic, recalibrated approach, but
Yeah,
one
it's
that,
a
if
delicate
achieved,
balance.
could redefine global stability.
So, to wrap it up, we're left with a picture of an empire struggling under the weight of its own ambitions, military overreach, geopolitical tensions, and economic challenges all spiraling together. And meanwhile,
exactly right.
rising powers are not just watching, they're actively reshaping the geopolitical landscape.
Exactly, and it really does leave us wondering what the future holds. Will the US manage a graceful pivot, or are we witnessing an inevitable decline as more countries gravitate towards new alliances? One that history will
It's
surely
definitely a
judge.
pivotal moment, and as we reflect on all this, it becomes clear that global dynamics are in flux, driven by both policy decisions and the collective aspirations of nations seeking a more balanced power structure.
Absolutely, it's a fascinating, if turbulent, time to watch history unfold. Thanks for joining in, everyone. These discussions really illuminate how deeply interconnected our world is and how the actions of a few can ripple across the globe. Until
Indeed,
next time,
thanks for the
let's
lively
keep questioning
exchange.
and engaging with these big topics.